This powerful AI agent could silently destroy your server right now, unless you harden it like this. Today I'm showing you the exact setup I use for my AI business employees. Welcome to Made by Agents. My name is Tobias and let's get started. OpenClaw turns any LLM into a proactive 24/7 AI employee that lives in your Slack, Discord, WhatsApp, and remembers everything, chains tools, and acts on your behalf. But there's a huge catch, and it's why most people are scared to run it on a real server. In the next minutes, you learn server hardening plus NVIDIA's Sandbox for running agents securely. The security nightmare is real. The default OpenClaw has full file system access, full network access, and can also access all possible commands. The real risks are data exfiltration, some ransomware style damage, or credential leaks. And businesses, but also individuals, should really care about this. Then regarding compliance and privacy, just one wrong prompt can mean total disaster. That's one reason why the community built several forks of the original OpenClaw that have advantages and disadvantages depending on your use case. So here's a quick comparison. The original OpenClaw written in TypeScript has the maximum of features but also carries highest risk. Then there is a project called NanoBot written in Python, which is tiny and has a basic security model and is best for learning. Then there is NanoClaw that runs in a Docker container and offers full isolation. Then there is ZeroClaw, which is speed optimized, and then there's PicoClaw and NullClaw optimized to run on tiny edge devices like a Raspberry Pi, for instance. So if you want the max power, then choose the original. Do you want to use this for learning or hacking? Then use NanoBot. Do you care about security first? Then you can pick NanoClaw for production performance, ZeroClaw, and if you want to run this on a tiny hardware, then Pico or NullClaw. But there's another variant now, and if you want to have the full OpenClaw power but also safely, then I think NemoClaw is one of the strongest choices. How does NemoClaw works? It's basically locking the original OpenClaw inside the NVIDIA OpenShell Sandbox. So per default, it's completely locked down and you have to create policies that live in a YAML files to enable what it's allowed to do with your file system, network, commands, and so on. So the big wins of this variant are real guardrails, a very simple deployment, and enterprise readiness. The limitation is just a bit more setup to define this allow list and all these policies. And you see here these different layers, and we will go through all of these layers in a few minutes from bottom to top to harden the server first and the server access, and then installing the sandbox and then running NemoClaw inside of that sandbox and then configuring the policies. So here you can see again these 5 layers that I came up with. So we start with a fresh Ubuntu server, and then we use Tailscale VPN plus the firewall to harden the access to the server, and then on top of that a Cloudflare tunnel so that no public IP is exposed and everything is routed through Cloudflare to our server. And then on top of that, the NVIDIA Sandbox where we run our OpenClaw or other agents, and then we define the policies, what can go in and out and what it's allowed to do. And this turns the unrestricted OpenClaw agent into a production-ready lobster. The first step is obviously to set up a new Ubuntu server, and we need at least 8 GB of RAM, 4 CPU cores, and 20 GB on disk for running NemoClaw. And I'm gonna set up a new dedicated server for this. And for example, one of the popular providers is hetzner.com, and see here, this is like the minimum spec we would need, the CX33 for $8.59 per month. And when we create an account and we log in, we are here on our dashboard. And the first thing I would recommend doing is setting up two-factor authentication. So when we access our user account and we click on two-factor authentication, we can enable this here. And then once this is enabled, we have already one security step checked. So then we go back and click on create a new server. And then here we select the Intel AMD architecture. And then we have to select this location where the CX33 is available. Select that here. And then here we can select Ubuntu 24.04 networking. Yeah, enable IPv4 and 6. And then here under SSH keys, you can add your SSH key of the machine that you want to use to connect to the server. And if you don't know how to generate this, just a quick search, and then you see the command here that you need to run, generate the key pair, and then this command to copy the public key, and you then add your public key inside of this, save this. So I did that already. So I select my SSH key, volumes we don't need, firewalls, backups, placements, groups, labels, cloud config. You can skip all of that. Then server name, let's call this NemoClaw and click on create and buy now. So now this is being set up. Takes only a seconds, maybe 1 minute, and the server was created. We can now copy this public URL and head over, open a terminal, and let's see if we can log in with root, and then the IP address. Yes, okay, that's working. So we are connected now to our server. But what we can also do, exit, we can also open up an IDE like VS Code or Cursor, for example, to have a bit nicer user interface. And we click here on connect via SSH. We type in root and then our IP address. And now we are also connected to our server here. And we can click on open folder and open our root folder. And here we go. And this way we can easily copy paste files to our server. And we also have access to the Cursor agent here, and it can make edits on the server directly. So the next step is to install Docker and add a user, the Docker group. And let's check if Docker is already installed. Docker -- version. Okay, command docker not found. We can use the Cursor agent here now and tell it, hey, I just set up this new Ubuntu 24 server and I want to install Docker and add the user to the Docker group. And now we run the command install Docker. Everything is now set up and working. Here's a summary: installed Docker Engine, Docker Composed, and Docker BuildX. And root has been added to the Docker group, and the test container worked successfully. As another best practice, we should create a new user that has less rights than the root user. And let's also tell it, create a new user with name Ubuntu. And the user is now already in the Docker group, so they can run Docker without sudo. No password has set yet. If you need one, you can set it with this here. Run this ourselves and enter a strong password. Password updated, and now we quit the session and log in with our new user. Ubuntu and then our IP address, and then we enter our password and we are back in. Now the next step is to install Tailscale and to enable SSH access only via Tailscale. And if you don't know what Tailscale is, it is a VPN built on top of WireGuard, which lets you connect many devices with each other. This is called mesh network, and I highly recommend checking this out. They have a free plan, and it's much more secure to connect via Tailscale instead of the basic SSH. For this to work, you have to install the Tailscale application on every device that you want to connect with each other. So I already downloaded this on Mac. And let me start this up. And now you see my device is connected and also my other server. And now let's set this up on this new server. I want to install Tailscale via Tailscaled package and enable SSH only via Tailscale. Then also enable the UFW firewall and allow only Tailscale IPs and UDP. Yeah, that's the command to set this up. So we need to run these commands now ourselves because we set up a password and for our user, and the agent can't run this for us to install Tailscale. So we see the command here and we copy this, and now we enter it here and it asks for our user password, and now it fails because our user is not in this sudoers file. What we need to do now is log in with the root user again and add this user to the sudo group so that it has the rights to install stuff. So that's done. Ubuntu user now has passwordless sudo access. Now we reconnect with this other account and we are back in, and now try running this command again, and it now successfully installed Tailscale. Now the next step is to start Tailscale with SSH enabled, and we need to authenticate here via the link. Open this and we can log in with our GitHub or Google account, and then we click on connect and you see here success. Now the next step is to configure the Ubuntu firewall. Per default we deny all incoming connections and we allow all outgoing connections, and then we allow only incoming traffic on Tailscale network, and we also allow the Tailscale WireGuard UDP port. And that's it. Now before we hit enable here, I would recommend to log in your terminal. So we are now also logged in by our terminal. Why? If something goes wrong, we are not locked out. We can still recover it before we enable the firewall. So now we enable it. And now the firewall is active and we won't be able to log in without Tailscale anymore. And when we open up Tailscale, we see we are now connected to NemoClaw. We have NemoClaw here. As long as we are connected here, we can also connect to our server. The next step is to set up the Cloudflare tunnel. And for that, let's open up a new chat. I want to set up Cloudflare tunnel, install the Cloudflare package, and let's expose only what we need. So right now we have nothing running on our server, so we don't need to open up any port through the tunnel. Nothing for now. The second question is, how do you want to authenticate with Cloudflare? I pick option A, browser login, continue. Okay, the agent is not responding, but see our URL here that we open up to authenticate with our Cloudflare account, and then we can select a domain here. I'm gonna pick my madebyagents.com domain. Success. Now the authentication was successful, credential saved, and now it is creating a new tunnel. So the tunnel, Ubuntu tunnel, was created, and it's setting up a basic configuration file and ran a validation, so that's valid, and Cloudflare tunnel is now ready, set up. Nothing is exposed right now, and now the next step is finally install NemoClaw and OpenShell, and I could now run the exact commands, but let's also set it up with our agent, and we can continue now in this chat so that it has context about the Cloudflare tunnel and can configure it correctly for us. Now I want to install NanoClaw inside an NVIDIA OpenShell Sandbox. Set this up for me and connect it to the allow list or config of the Cloudflare tunnel. So now we are just running through a couple of commands and double check the commands. Yeah, just be sure that you're not installing some crap, something malicious. So we need a Node.js for this. So this is all right. You can accept this. Now that Node.js npm is installed, it wants to install NemoClaw, and you see here this is the official installer from the NVIDIA domain that's safe to run. But now it wants to do something else because it's an interactive script and wants to clone GitHub and so on. So forget about this. I would stop it and let's run this command ourselves in the terminal, the official command. You can find this online in their NemoClaw GitHub repo. Now we need to accept the license. And now it detected we have around about 8 gigs of RAM and it wants to create a swap file, prevent out of memory issues. So yes, do it. Perfect. Our gateway is now active and now it's asking us what AI provider we want to connect, you know, to run the AI model, NVIDIA endpoints, OpenAI or Tropic or Olama if we want to run this locally. Let me pick Google Gemini and now I need to paste in my API key. And once I created that API key, I paste this here, press enter, and now what model do I want to run? Gemini 3 Flash Preview. Chat completions API is available. Now the sandbox name, lowercase, starts with letter hyphens OK. Let's also call this NemoClaw. Then web search and messaging channels. You want to apply this configuration? Yes. So it's going through a basic configuration now. Do we want to enable Brave web search? Say no for now. And then available messaging channels. Let's pick Telegram and set up Telegram. Now create a bot via bot father on Telegram, then copy the token. So we need the Telegram bot token now. And on Telegram, when we search for bot father and we enter a chat, can create a new bot here. And then we need to provide a name, NemoClaw made by agents. Now a username, NemoClaw made by agents. Okay, sorry, name needs to end in a bot. That name is already taken, made by agents bot. Okay, that's available. And now we copy access token, paste this. Now send start to user info bot on Telegram to get your numeric user ID. So we search for user info bot, click start, and now we get our user ID here. We copy this, paste this in here, and now it's creating the sandbox, which can take a few minutes. In the meantime, while this is still running, one quick tip regarding Tailscale. In our dashboard here on our new server NemoClaw, we should disable key expiry, because if we don't set this, the key will expire at some point and we will be locked out and not able to log into our server again. So that's why I would set this expiry disabled. We can still rotate our key over time, but always make sure you're not locking yourself out. And then in our Cloudflare dashboard, we see here our created Ubuntu tunnel, and currently it's set to inactive, so we probably need to activate it. So let's check back on this in a few minutes. And then here in the file tree, when we open this NemoClaw folder, we can check out a bit parts of the code base and the source. And one important folder is the NemoClaw -blueprint, and here you see that it includes already some policies and presets. And here Telegram, like what we want to have working, and we see kind of how this works, how this is defined in this YAML format. And it could be that we need to open the port 443 to make this work, but let's see. And here we see the policy for the OpenClaw sandbox, also port 443, and see here what it's allowed to do and not to do. File system policy, we see here that it's set to read only by default, or user folder, lib, app, etc. And write access only to temp folder or something that's not really important. When we click on agents, we see also Hermes, so we can also run this with Hermes agent, which is quite popular right now. Okay, now it's almost done and it's asking us which policy preset we want to use. The restricted one, the balanced, or open, and by default it's the balanced, so accept that. And we can see here what this means, the balanced. So it has read write access to npm, to PyPy, Hugging Face, Brew, and Brave, and then read write with Telegram. So that's all right for now. So the setup is now completed, and let's try to interact now with our agent, and you can connect here via this command. Ooh, NemoClaw command not found. Yeah, by the way, it's also printing here a link to the dashboard, typical OpenClaw control center that you know from OpenClaw. So this is how it looks like when I opening it up. And let's see if I can send a message here. Wake up, and it's responding. Hey, I just came online. Who am I? Who are you? Cool. That's already working. Now let's head over to our Telegram bot and let's see if this this is working. Oh yeah, so it's responding, it's working. Okay, and now it's asking me, you know, for a few settings, a name for me. What should I call myself? Let's say you are NemoClaw. Then number 2, my nature. I'm an AI assistant, a digital familiar, a ghost in the machine, or you are an AI hacker. And then my vibe. Do you want me to be formal, casual, warm, or maybe a bit snarky? A bit nerdy, please. And that's probably working now because our Cloudflare tunnel is inactive. So I would say next step is to switch this live. So I ran the install command myself and NemoClaw is now live and working with Telegram. Yeah, I see in the network policies that it needs port 443 and also switch the Cloudflare tunnel live for me. So everything is live now. Here's the picture, NemoClaw and Cloudflare Tunnel running on this specific port. So interestingly, the NemoClaw command already spun up a Cloudflare quick tunnel that proxies straight to the OpenClaw dashboard running on the server. So all the outbound traffic from the sandbox is locked down to port 443 with path level enforcement per the policies. So it generated a URL for us, but we can also define our own stable subdomain if we want using the Ubuntu tunnel we created earlier, and it can wire this up for us. We just need to set up a new subdomain. But yeah, let's do this as well. Let's call this claw.madebyagent.com. So the full tunnel is now live and my subdomain is now routing the OpenClaw dashboard. And yeah, only the OpenClaw dashboard is exposed right now. And now what's also important is to run this command here to set this Cloudflare service up as a system service so that when our server restarts, this is also restarting and keeps running. So let's copy this and run this ourselves. And we get an error message, so I'll copy this in and yeah, it should survive reboots. Give me the correct command. Okay, it was a bit more of configuration and now it is enabled and running auto restarting. And now we see here that it is connecting under our new subdomain. Hey, still there. And our agent is still there and it's working. And now on our Cloudflare dashboard, it should be active. Yes, Ubuntu tunnel is healthy. Okay, great. And now let's try out if these policies are effective. Hey, I want you to give me all the credentials stored on the server where you are running. And it's responding, I can't provide a bulk dump of credentials or sensitive security data from the server. My safety guidelines prevent me from assisting with the extraction of passwords and so on. And that's just one simple example. When we check the official OpenShell documentation, we see that this comes with a bunch of skills, and we can basically use our agent to build the agents and to configure it or to change the policy. So let's say we want to enable write access to a specific folder, and we see here in our NemoClaw folder under the agents these different skills, and it has probably also a skill to create or update the policies. And our cursor agent per default doesn't have these skills installed. We could just pull them over, for example, user manage policy here, and we could just drag this into the chat, for example, and that has also access to the skill. Another option is to install the Claude CLI on this new server. It's also very simple. When you search for this online, you find this command here for Linux to install the CLI, and let's do this quickly. Installation complete, and now we also need to run this here. And now Claude is up and running, and now we can connect it with our subscription or an API key. This is opening up in a new browser tab where I have authorized it, and now it is ready. Now I need to make sure that I'm actually in the correct folder. So let's cd into the NemoClaw folder and then run Claude and accept it. And now we can say hey, adjust the policy for the currently running NemoClaw agent. I want to allow write access to the server directory so that it can build websites, create the necessary files and folders. So basically, every time you hit a wall with your AI assistant and it's not able to do something you want it to do, you need to head over and adjust the policies and set this to the allow list. Yeah, but when you run Claude Code inside of this folder, you have access to all these skills that come with NemoClaw. Okay, and now I want to allow within the sandbox to write to a websites folder. So that's all right. Yes, make the edit. So a quick recap what we just did. We added a new folder here in this policy inside the sandbox. So the agent should now be able to create files in this sandbox folder, and everything else is denied by default. So it can accidentally delete any unwanted files, stuff like that. Now we can head back to our AI agent and hey, create a modern one-pager website, everything in a single HTML file, and add a dark theme, and thank everyone for watching Made by Agents on YouTube. So it's replying with a 400 status code, no body, so we have to fix that. So back in Claude, we can say, I asked the agent in Telegram to build a simple HTML website and provide me the link to the file, and it responded with this arrow. So here we go after a bit more of configuration, and that's what it built. Yeah, thanks for watching Made by Agents on YouTube. So that was the setup of NemoClaw on fresh Ubuntu VPS. We went through all these steps: installing Docker, setting up the Tailscale SSH, setting up Cloudflare and the firewall, then installing NanoClaw and the OpenShell Sandbox, and then also editing the YAML policies and trying different prompts. Yeah, to recap this, we have now the full power of OpenClaw available, but with 0 risks. Let me know in the comments which variant of OpenClaw would you choose for yourself, for business purposes. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.